You know, they say you should keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But what do you do when your enemy is your own brother? The person you shared a room with, the one who knew all your secrets, the one you thought would always have your back. This is the story of how that brother stole my future and how I took it back. It all started with a dream. I've always been the ideas guy. Late one night, it hit me. A concept for a tech company that could change how small businesses operate. I called it Nexus Tech. I was obsessed. For 2 years, I lived and breathed this idea. I filled notebooks with plans, designs, and financial projections. It was my baby. And my brother Alex was my biggest supporter. Or at least, he played the part perfectly. We'd meet for coffee, and I'd excitedly explain my progress. He'd lean in, listen intently, and offer suggestions. "You're a genius," he'd say. "This is going to be huge." I felt so lucky to have him. I trusted him completely. I showed him everything, my private documents, my vulnerabilities, my deepest fear that I might fail. He was my rock. Then, slowly, things started to change. He began asking more specific questions, technical ones. How exactly does that algorithm work? Can I see the code for that feature? He said he was just curious, trying to help me spot problems. I was flattered. I sent him everything. And then, the silence. He stopped returning my calls. My texts would go unanswered for days. I was worried. I thought maybe he was sick or in some kind of trouble. I even showed up at his apartment, but he wasn't there. I felt a cold knot of dread forming in my stomach. The truth didn't slowly dawn on me. It exploded in my face. I was scrolling through a business news site, and there he was, smiling that confident smile I knew so well. The headline read, "Meet Alex, the visionary behind Synapse Systems." My blood ran cold. I clicked the article. The description of his company? It was my idea. The core functionality was my algorithm. The branding was a slightly different color blue, but the layout was identical. He had taken my Nexus Tech and called it Synapse Systems. The world started spinning. It felt like a physical blow. He hadn't just stolen an idea. He had stolen 2 years of my life, my passion, my future. He had taken our relationship, our bond as brothers, and he had sold it for a chance at fame and fortune. The following months were a dark blur. I watched from the sidelines as Synapse Systems took off. He secured the exact investor I was supposed to pitch to. He was featured in magazines. He bought a big, flashy car. Meanwhile, I was paralyzed. How do you fight your own brother? How do you prove an idea was yours when he executed it first? I felt broken, defeated, and utterly alone. The turning point came when I saw a television interview with him. The host called him a self-made genius. Alex smiled, so smug, and talked about his overnight success. That word, genius, it lit a fire in me. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was a cold, clear, and focused rage. I made a vow to myself that night. I would not compete with him. I would not try to build my own version. My goal was singular and simple. I would annihilate everything he had built. I knew I had to be smart. I had to be patient. I got a boring, stable job as a project manager. I lived frugally and saved every single penny. This wasn't for me. It was my war fund. I spent my nights learning everything I could about his company, his software, his weaknesses. My plan was intricate. I created a shell company, registered under a different name with a professional website and a fake CEO. It looked completely legitimate. Then I hired a brilliant, discreet freelance developer from overseas. Our mission? To find a vulnerability in the core architecture of Synapse Systems software. We didn't just find one, we engineered one. We built a beautiful, elegant piece of code that contained a hidden backdoor, a silent, sleeping virus that would only wake up with a specific, secret command. Now came the dangerous part. My fake company, posing as a major international firm, reached out to Synapse Systems. We expressed great interest in their product, but said we needed a specific custom integration to handle our unique data needs. We offered an enormous amount of money, more than they had ever seen. It was a deal they couldn't refuse. I remember watching the email chain from my fake account. My brother was eager, almost desperate to please this new client. His greed blinded him to any due diligence. He personally signed the contract. He was so proud of landing such a big fish. He had no idea he was shaking hands with his own brother, signing the death warrant for his company. The integration day arrived. His team implemented our custom code, and the moment they activated it, the trap was sprung. The back door opened. It didn't just cause a glitch. It was designed to be a slow, systematic collapse. First, it began corrupting their primary database. Customer information started becoming garbled and useless. Then it triggered a script that copied their most valuable asset, their proprietary source code, and emailed it directly to their three biggest competitors. The chaos was immediate and public. News outlets switched from praise to panic. Massive data breach at Synapse Systems. Founder's competence in question. His stock price didn't just fall, it plummeted off a cliff. Investors sued him. Customers fled in droves. The company he built on my back was crumbling into dust, and everyone was watching. The final, most satisfying humiliation was personal. At our parents' 40th wedding anniversary, the whole family was there. Alex looked like a ghost of himself. He was thin, pale, and nervous. People were awkwardly avoiding him. Finally, our uncle asked him straight out, "Alex, what in the world happened?" He had to stand there, in front of everyone who once admired him, and stammer through a pathetic story about sophisticated cyber attacks and bad luck. No one bought it. You could see the shame and disappointment in everyone's eyes. The genius was exposed as a fraud. A few days later, my phone rang. It was him. His voice was choked with tears. I lost everything," he sobbed. "The bank is taking the house. I have nothing left. Can I please stay with you for a little while? I have nowhere else to go." I let the silence on the line stretch out. I let him sit in the utter ruin of his own making. I felt a profound calm. Then I spoke, my voice quiet and steady. "I'm sorry, Alex, but I don't do business with thieves." I heard a sharp intake of breath, and then I hung up. He didn't just lose his company and his money. He lost his reputation, his pride, and the respect of his family. He learned that the brother he betrayed was not the weak, broken man he thought I was. I rebuilt my life on my own terms, stronger and smarter. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about sitting back in your quiet, peaceful life and watching the karma you helped deliver finally do its work.